Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And as you can see, we are no longer on the Yep Frank YouTube channel. We are on the Galaxy of Geek YouTube channel. We have transferred over to try to unify the content more and to open up the show more. We might be doing some reaction videos. We might be doing some other things that we feel like doing. Might do some crossovers.
The phrase of the day, kids, is brand synergy.
Yeah, brand synergy. We're going to use those words to really reel you back in. No, really, this is all about trying to get Galaxy of Geek to and us to be able to do whatever we want. You know, like I felt like sometimes a little bit the Yep Frank YouTube channel, maybe it's too personal because it's got years of my content on it. So I think if we move over to the Galaxy Geek, it's going to be a good time. And of course, check out galaxygeek.com to check out our 2 articles that we put out this past week. Mine called my New Year's resolution was to watch more movies in 2021, and Deshaun's named
was just Deshaun's 2021 recollection.
Yeah.
Just because I call the actual doc that I write in, and I've been doing it for years, just whatever the year is, recollection.
Yeah. And basically, if you haven't seen the articles, but go check them out. They're going to be linked in the description. But of course, go to galaxygeek.com. They're right at the top. Basically, we break down what we kept a journal of what we were watching and playing all year long. And today we're kind of going to go through the best of the best. We're not going to go through every little bit because my list was 160 long just for the movies. And Deshaun, what was yours? What's the list at the bottom there? It's fucking long.
Yeah, just for the movies, it was 154.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and then 34 for non-anime related stuff, and then 20 for anime, so a lot.
And I've heard of great directors watching at least a movie a day, and I want to say with the anime and the TV, I'm not saying we're great directors or anything, but we did watch almost a movie every day. I feel like it's
yeah, and I made it a point basically since I had gotten vaxxed the first time to not just go see blockbusters in theaters and be stubborn about seeing other shit.
Whoa, sir! You're telling me you don't go to only see tent poles like this guy right here?
Yeah, I've been making. It's funny because I make fun of you for it.
He roasts me
every
all the
week,
fucking time.
Every time. And the thing is, you always try to scramble for an excuse. Like last week, you're just like, well, COVID's still around. Literally go sees No Way Home again.
Whoops. Yeah, no, that's one of my goals in 2022. We'll go over our goals for 2022 later, but one of them is to go to the movies a lot more. And I know that might not be super available to do, but I do want to be on top of that shit, as much as I can be. But in 2021, it was my goal, instead of doing every year, you can see on the site on Galaxy Geek, I keep saying it, is that I try to play more games. And I got a lot of games the year before, and I was kind of like, I didn't enjoy half of these games, I didn't have a good time with some of these games because I was just trying to beat as many as I possibly could. And of course there was a bunch of great ones. And even this year with my very small list of games I beat, I think I played a higher quality of game. I mean, I did step away from Overwatch in a big way because of the Activision Blizzard stuff. So I was like, I'm not playing you anymore. So I guess I'm off a lot of online games, especially since I'm not playing Pokemon Unite anymore either. So I got some good games in 2021, and already in 2022 I've already got 2 games on the list. So
well, quality is better than quantity, I guess, even though the actual goal and count is always fun. I mentioned multiple times on both the show and even in the article itself that haven't played as much games this year, mostly smaller stuff, just to keep it short and sweet and have the time for other things, which is unique for me. But I still played plenty of good stuff.
So what I want to do here is, did you have scores on your? You had scores just on. You didn't have it on the games, but you didn't have any scores. Okay, so what I wanted to do was list all my 9s, but if you could do your like, because it'll only be like 5 to 10 for me that are 9s. So it's like maybe you make a top
like,
10.
I mean, especially for games, it's only like 32, so I can literally like skim through and just go, what were the best things I played?
Yeah, exactly. So let's do you want to start with games or movies? Is the big question here.
I'll start with games only because that's the first one on my doc.
All right. Let's go with so what was what were the games you beat in 2021? Let's go with it as I get
okay, rapid fire. The re-release of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game.
Nice.
Metroid Prime 2, Super Mario 3D World, and Bowser's Fury.
There's gonna be a lot of Prime in here, right? There's gonna be
not as much
Metroid.
as you would think.
No, yeah. Okay.
There's a few handful of Metroids. Like most of the Metroid was last year.
Yeah.
Or like the year before, rather. So like Scott Pilgrim, Metroid Prime 2, Super Mario 3D World, and Bowser's Fury, No More Heroes 1, Untitled Goose Game.
Which
lot of fun.
Which is on sale right now, and I was kind of like, maybe
it's a fun short time. I honestly would dig a sequel that would expand on it more. It's just fun to be a shithead goose that fucks with people. It's just really fun to mess with people the entire time.
It sounds great. I've watched a lot of videos on it. It sounds wonderful.
Portal 1 and 2, I did a revisit of that. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Super Mario Sunshine, following me doing 64 last year.
I didn't even beat Sunshine. I like started it and I was like, yes, another Mario game that I'm going to walk away from. I know I'm the worst. I'm like the biggest Nintendo guy, but I fucking every time I'm like, is this a Mario game? I'm okay with it. Like, you know, like
Mario, unless it's party or sports, get out of my face.
No, and to be fair, Odyssey I beat. And I beat with a lot of love. I loved that game. I thought that was great. But then I go back to Sunshine and I went back to 64 and I was like, I don't need this.
Sunshine was a lot smoother for me. I had a real rough time revisiting 64. That was a lot of stress. So like Sunshine in comparison felt like a lot easier to get through. Rock of Ages 1 and 2.
Oh, nice.
Which was the silly like tower defense game I had told you about, where like you roll a big boulder down a hill to try and destroy their like forts and stuff.
But it's all ridiculous. Historical references and stuff like that. It sounds fun.
It's literally the rock that Sisyphus rolls.
That's ridiculous.
And the idea is that it escapes and wreaks havoc throughout the centuries. It's so funny. All the cutscenes have like this sort of like Monty Python like cutout kind of style.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Limbo was a revisit. I hadn't played that game in years.
I bought that and I haven't played it yet. That's another one that I bought on Switch and I haven't played it yet. So it's worth it. Limbo's
it's a solid little like indie puzzle game.
Okay, cool.
It's not long either. So
yeah, I think it's something like 4 hours or something. Like that. Really fast.
The PS4 remake of Shadow of the Colossus, I finally played and beat. That was fun.
Nice, nice.
It's basically the same exact game, except like the graphics.
Because
like the controls are more or less the same. The mechanics are basically the same, but it's just crispy as fuck now.
Sounds good.
Did a revisit of Halo 1 and 2 with the anniversary because I got the Master Chief Collection on my laptop, so I played it with a couple buddies. Yes, 3 is further down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
New Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, you're one of my friends who beat the fuck out of that game. Like I've seen a lot of people play that game and put like 10 hours in. That was us too. We did like 5 hours, and I want to go back. It's not like I'm against the game. It's just
I'm making up for lost time. That's how long I fucking waited for a sequel to this, and a sequel that's not just like 4 hours long.
I don't know. Mary's review of it is they should have done more new stuff. She didn't think it was new enough. It didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
You know, like
I could see that.
Which I thought was funny from her, who could just like literally sit down right now and beat Pokemon Snap, but then like the original, but then like you do the new one, and she was kind of like, yeah.
But it's also, there is more content.
Yeah.
But as far as like new mechanics and stuff like that, no, not so much.
Yeah. Which I think is weird. You know, like to even slap on the new title and not be like,
Although
we've
to be
gotten some new
fair,
stuff.
like the only complaint about Pokemon Snap was that it was too short. So just basically
true.
doing the same thing with better graphics, more Pokemon,
But they
and just
didn't do the same
more
thing.
time to
The
play.
no evolution things. No.
Yeah, that's one thing they took out.
That's one of my things that I was kind of like, what? That was one of my main problems with that. Was like, wait, so one of the most fun parts of the game where you just whip an apple at Squirtle and then they become a Blastoise in a second doesn't happen, like.
Yeah, I think that's that disconnect between like Snap being primarily kind of an anime game specifically, so they like mess with the rules of evolution versus like this being proper, even though it was offshoot of the Bandai, like proper like Pokemon game mechanics. It's not how they evolve. You're like, I know, but come on.
Yeah, it's true.
So after new Pokemon Snap, I did Sonic Forces.
Oh yes,
just because we did the
that's on my list.
We did the Ian Flynn comics for book club. So I'm like,
nice.
Shit, this connects to Forces, doesn't it? It's like, yep, it literally picks up right where Forces ends. I'm like, okay, let me go play Forces in a day and beat it, and I did.
Man.
It was bad.
Yeah, no, I went from being like, it was so funny. I remember playing it and playing the first couple levels and being like, oh, everyone's complained about this and this is really fun. I'm really liking this. And then I got to the last 2 levels and I was like, fuck this game. I fucking hate this game. It's awful. It's terrible. It's not well designed, but guys, we try not to talk about things we don't really like on this show. So
yeah, not most of the time anyway.
I will not talk about Sonic Forces but it did it was just such a souring because it was like, wow, this is cool. This is fine. And then it was like, oh no, like this is real bad.
So Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, that was another revisit.
Yeah.
I played this GBA game called Ninja 5-0, which is like this cross between Ninja Gaiden and I guess like a side scroller like beat 'em up and stuff like that. It's weird. You play as a ninja cop. So you go around like killing terrorists and stuff, and you got to find keys to unlock doors and stuff like that. It's weird, but it's super fun. Apparently, I looked it up because it was one of those like hidden gem underappreciated GBA games, and then I played it. I'm like, yeah, this is really fun. I would have eaten this up.
Huh. Sounds good.
So, and then after that, it's technically a game I couldn't beat only because it's primarily multiplayer. So there's not technically an end other than the sense that I did all the preset stages. I've been playing a shitload of golf with your friends with buddies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Just a simple little like indie mini golf game, and people can make their own custom stages. So that's fun because I do like sports games aren't my thing, but I'll play a golf game most of the time. It's kind of fun. And maybe even if I don't go out of my way to buy one, but mini golf where you have like obstacles and shit like that makes it a lot more fun.
I did love Golf Story, so I'm excited for Sports Story. I think that's going to be awesome.
Then after that is Phasmophobia, which is basically a playable version of all those shitty reality like ghost shows.
Yeah.
But the ghosts are actually real. And you go in with like flashlights and equipment. You bring in certain items to sort of bait them. You can have them like write on books. It's all stuff to like have them trigger different things so you can determine exactly what type of spirit they are. Once you discover like what type of spirit they are, then you've pretty much beaten the level and can leave. You just have to, make sure you're efficient about it because they will turn violent and kill you.
Yeah, they will murder you.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So that's fun.
But you were able, I know that's multiplayer. Is there a set amount of levels in that?
And we pretty much did them all. I think since I stopped playing it, there's like a new update with like some new stuff in it, but I haven't touched it yet.
Yeah.
After that, I did the Iki Island expansion for Ghost of Tsushima, which is fantastic. It's just more Ghost of Tsushima.
Nice. Can't beat that.
So just like a 20, 30 hour expansion. I'm like, yeah, we're back.
We're back, baby.
See, I played a stupid little game called Road Bustle, which is infamous because it's one of those infamous games because it's poorly designed, but you can platinum it in like you can platinum it in a few minutes and it costs like $1.
And you're like, gotta do it.
Yeah, so I just did it for shits. And then after that, I did Donut County.
Oh, and I love that game. I beat that game the year it came out on Switch, and I loved it and beat it the day I got it on Christmas. Beat it on Christmas. I thought it was great.
That was another one where
a lot of fun.
It's charming and funny. It's also super easy to platinum. There were a few of these where I was kind of fishing for platinum.
Yeah, you're like, let's finish
because
this.
in my friend group, I'm usually the one with the most amount, and now my record has been beaten, and I'm just like,
oh
this will
no,
not stand.
Oh no. His nerddom has been tested, and it will not.
Dude, mines. This will not stand.
And is that the end of the list? No,
I got a few more. Just rapid fire. The Forest, which is something we covered years ago, back in the GAU days. Yeah. So since those old days, because I actually went back to the old channel and watched that review.
Yeah.
And just seeing the difference in the way the game looks, like back then compared to what I had played, I'm like, okay, there has been a lot of like updates and stuff. It's still clunky. It's still a little, little rough around the edges, but super fun with friends. Fun survival game. Very heavily inspired by The Descent.
Nice. Love The Descent.
And there is the sequel coming out next year, Sons of the Forest, which already looks a lot more polished.
Yeah. It sounds like they finally got the money and they're like, let's go. Let's go.
But still very much like indie budget, though. Yeah. So, grain of salt.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool.
Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which was my first run through it, because it's the only one of the like mainline Zelda games that I had like never played.
I still haven't played it. So, and it's one of those things that maybe you could just let me, if you own it physically, borrow it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Because I don't, it's one of those things where I'm like, I probably won't like this. I know I won't, and I'll be disappointed and angry, but I don't want to spend $50 to $60 to be disappointed and angry. You know, like
I like it, but it's just one of those things where you could tell that like the Ocarina of Time formula was exhausted by this point.
Yeah.
And it directly leads into like why we kind of had to reinvent the wheel after the fact with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hear it, and the big marketing push was like, you didn't even catch on to how it leads into Breath of the Wild, with mechanics-wise. And you're like, is that really what we want to advertise here? Yeah. Like, I was like, the better game? You're like, the game you guys didn't figure it out for?
Stuff about it. I have mixed feelings about the whole, like, prequel-y elements to it.
Yeah, where it's supposed to be the first Zelda, right?
Yeah,
it's supposed
first
to be
in the timeline. We've done that a few times.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I got a Hyrule story over here from Dark Horse Comics, and it doesn't even it's wrong now according to Nintendo. So you're just like, great, somebody gave me this really nice fucking huge gift of a Hyrule story, and it's wrong now.
Yeah.
You're like, awesome.
I could get on a whole soapbox about why adding a timeline to Zelda is stupid. So
it's like trying to connect all the Pixar movies in like a weird loose sense, and you're like, let's just let
the way I had always interpreted
it
as a kid was that the stories are different because legends and mythology alters and shift depending on like culture and the times that they're told. So that's how I always justified it in my head. This is why. He's like, the way my mom told it to me is that he fought Ganondorf, but the way my mom told it to me was that it was this creepy kid in a mask.
Yeah, right.
Stuff like that. Unless it's like obviously a direct sequel.
Yeah. I agree.
So after Skyward Sword, Metroid Dread.
Yeah,
which good.
I still haven't
100%.
beat it. I'm sorry. I got stuck and I walked away to play a lot of Loop Hero. So
I got stuck and I walked away.
I did
every single time.
I know, and I'm not. but that's okay. Like, let me be real though.
I don't think you're gonna completely abandon it like fucking Hollow Knight. But still.
No. This because I'm not. It's not like I can't figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. This is one of the best games of the year. I am sad I'm stuck. It's one of those things where it's like, it's not where it's like another game where you just get stuck and you're just like, well, fuck this. Like it was kind of like, I'm having the best time with this game. This is a lot of fun. This is really well directed. And then, and then like I got stuck and I was kind of like, I need to walk away just to do something else. Like, I'll come back to it.
That's probably favorite game of the year, but the remaining
really
ones
something
are Ori and the Blind Forest, because after I finished Red, I was still on like a Metroidvania kick. So I'm like, let me go back to Ori and the Blind Forest and finish it because I was in the middle of it. Nice. Then we did Halo 3. Because after the Genesis games came out for Switch Online, I beat Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine and Streets of Rage 2. Those are the two games I just kind of plowed through.
You were like, I can beat Streets of Rage 2. You're like, here we go.
And then the last game of the year that I beat, which I still haven't platinumed because I'm doing the secret challenge, is The Witness,
Oh.
which is a first-person puzzle game that I really, really like, but it's a pain in the goddamn ass.
So my list is a little bit shorter. I got and with a few pretty bad ones in here, but I still got some great ones in here. Number one, Crisis, which on Switch it doesn't run great, but they've updated it since I beat it, so But the end of the game is so bad, I don't recommend it. Jump Force, which at first I was like, this ain't bad, and it is bad. It's really bad. It's so badly made. Don't play Jump Force, even for the fun of it. Like, don't do it. It's not worth it.
That's what I tried to tell you.
Yeah, you tried to tell me, but then it was another Sonic Forces situation where it gets to the final two bosses and they go from being like, this game is made for children, to being like, no, we're a real game now. And they try to like make it super hard at the end, but not in any real way. Just like make it super artificial. Like in Jump Force, it was literally if the final boss hit you once, you died. So you had to literally spam buttons to beat him, and that was the way to beat him. And you're like, it's not good game design, guys. You know, just to like encourage spamming. Like, what the fuck?
Similar to like Forces Parallels, it's also one of those things where like it's a follow-up game that's inferior to its predecessor, but you don't have anything to play its predecessor on, so you're just kind of fucked and stuck with the bad one.
You're just like, fuck. Next I beat the Dauntless Slayer Noids, which was the kind of the first person mode that they had at the beginning of the year. Which I like Dauntless. It was scratching my Monster Hunter itch before Monster Hunter Rise came out later in this list. And that's what I really wanted. I just wanted to play some Monster Hunter. I was like, I don't really want to go back to my 3DS, so please, Dauntless on my Switch, let's play. And it was fine. It's fine. It's not great. It's just they try to make it like MMO-y instead of what Rises does, and you realize why Rises isn't as MMO, and they just do small rooms because it's obnoxious to have people everywhere just clipping into everything. You're like, I didn't want this. Like, you're like, this adds nothing to my experience. The next was one of the better games I played this year was Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. Fantastic dungeon crawler. I've never played any of the Mystery Dungeon series, and this really blew me out of the water. I would love to go back to the other ones.
Mystery Dungeon games. I also had gotten that and started it, but I never finished.
Nice. One that I just played because reasons. Azure Lane Crosswave, which was garbage, but I was in the Azure Lane. I watched it, and then I was like, game, and I bought it, and I don't know why I beat it. But, you know, ship ladies, I guess. Moving on. Monster Hunter Rise was my next one, which, of course, is one of my top games of this year. I think if there's a top three, it's Disgaea 6, Monster Hunter Rise, and probably Mystery Dungeon. Well, yes, 9 and Mystery Dungeon are hard compete, but Monster Hunter Rise was fantastic. Put a lot of hours into it. I really enjoyed it. I beat the story. I want to keep playing. I haven't played a lot of the online past some of the updates that they put out, so I need to get back into it, especially before the big update comes and they charge you money for it. But really, it's everything I wanted. It was like, I loved all my Monster Hunters before on my 3DS, and to finally get like a true on Switch Monster Hunter was great. And I'm sure it looks awesome on PC, which it's now coming out to in this month. So get hyped, Monster Hunter people. It's coming to PC. You can boost those, you can ultra high def graphics on your Steam account, I guess.
And then lord it all over, over all your friends.
Right. What you're gonna see is like Twitter accounts doing like pretty like hunts and stuff like that, because they'll look so nice on the PC, and you'll be like, ooh. Next up was Man Eater, which was a lot of fun. Then Disgaea 1 Complete. I wanted to, before Disgaea 6 came out, I wanted to play the original. The original doesn't fuck around. That I really enjoyed it. It was hard. It was, the other Disgaeas, you can kind of make mistakes and they're kind of like, it's okay, you got other things. And Disgaea 1, it was like, you didn't figure it out, you fucking idiot. Like, it was like, it was definitely like, it had a lot more like attitude to it. And I did enjoy it a lot. And he's the character that appears in the most Disgaea games. So it was nice to like, be like, I finally know who you are. And then Disgaea 6 came out and I put over 1,000 hours into that because I ran it all the time. It's probably the reason why my other Switch needed to be replaced with the OLED. Because I literally ran Disgaea 6. It's my #1 played game according to the Nintendo facts that they sent me. And it blew everything out of the water. It also upped my amount of hours I've played in the year by a lot because I just ran Disgaea 6 all the time. I would literally go to bed running the game because it's funny. Disgaea 6 is my #1 game of the year, but it's like it comes with so many caveats. It's like it's like Breath of the Wild, where you're like this is an amazing step for the series, but it's weird, you know. Like you're like, but they did some weird things, didn't they? Like, and I feel like that happens with Disgaea 6, where
always some give and take.
Yeah, where it became, instead of about the literal strategy you were doing on the board, to making the best team possible, you know, where it changed the focus. And I didn't hate it, you know, because I still had my strategy. I still played through a whole story mode where you had to be super strategic. But once the end game came, it was just like, yeah, you're gonna really ramp up your characters and you can get to like 900, 999, tons of
in the
nines,
same way that like Zelda
levels.
went from like dungeons to like pretty much focusing on everything else but that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something I'll say in Skyward Sword's favor is that I feel like it and Twilight Princess actually started to get really creative with the way they had handled their dungeons.
Nice.
And we're starting to lean into like a really interesting place where it wasn't just like, this is the forest one, this is the fire one, this is the water one. And they were actually starting to think outside the box. And I feel like we were starting to really lean into interesting stuff. And then Breath of the Wild happened and we just got the Sacred Beast instead.
Yeah, which I think is obviously the major fault in Breath of the Wild. I think it's a great game, and of course it's awesome, but I think that those kind of repeat dungeons is rough, you know. Story-wise, it's very cool, but you're like, but then I played Sonic Forces next, and we already talked about that. Then I played Ys 9, which I'll say it's Ys. I will say I had a better time with Ys than I did Mystery Dungeon. I really liked Mystery Dungeon, but Ys was kind of like a return to home after beating Ys 8, which, and it's such a contrast between the two because 8 is like, yes, we're on a beach and you have to build the camp and make the camp cool. And then they were like, we can't, that was too breezy. That was too breezy for an RPG. It's German, like village and castles and vampires and monsters. Let's go. And you're like, what? Like, I went from my like breezy island RPG to being like horror RPG, sort of, because it's still goofy. And you're like, okay, like, sure. But I did enjoy it. I can't wait for the next one. It's one of those things where this series is so surprising to me. It brings me in. This was definitely a lot shorter than the other one by 20 hours, which I think is significant. You know, like they kind of ran out of things to do in the city, which I think was my main complaint, was like, how did you run out of ideas to do in the city? And why did we have to go out into the fields? Like the city could have been fine for a long time. And they were just like, we ran out of things to do. Let's get out, I guess. And it's just it's the same thing as like I'll say this about any of the movies, is that like the more I like a movie, sometimes the more I criticize it, you know, like the more I go, well, this is wrong with it, even though I love this thing, you know, like I can see the issues that people have. You know, I try to, at least, so that way I'm not just like, fanboy, wow,
perfect. It was completely flawless.
and you're like, that's not criticism. You know,
Yeah.
like, you're like, that's not criticism. It doesn't help anybody.
And neither is it was bad because it sucked.
Yeah, you're like, or it's bad because it's hard. You're like, no, you're just bad at the game. You gotta accept that, you know, like, like me. I accept I'm bad at those games and I walk away. But the last two on the list are Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars, which was one of my most. I was so excited for this game all year. And it kind of let me down, where it was like, I was so excited for an RPG card game and to see how far they were going to take that. The demo was so good. The demo was it. The demo was the game. I thought there was going to be some other game develop, like some literal other game mechanics, and they just didn't have anymore. They, like, the fucking demo showed it all off. And I was kind of like, shit. Like, it really just became what I thought was going to be a card game RPG with like card game elements, turned into a RPG, but everything's cards. And you're like, okay, do the cards do anything? And they're like, no, it's an RPG with cards. And you're like, do you shuffle a deck? Do you draw cards? Do you do anything like that? And you're like, no. And the enemies don't do anything to you card wise either. They just hit you like an RPG, and you're like, we could have, there's so much here, like, you know, like, it really drove me mad, because it's one of those things where I was like playing the game, and I beat this game because I did enjoy most of it, but it was one of those things where I was like, I need a sequel, because I need you to take this and go 5-6 steps in the future here and give me a card game back, you know, like, don't just be, here's a card veneer, you know, no, fuck that. Give me a card game that plays like an RPG. I don't know how hard that is, you know, like.
Might I recommend Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, I guess.
Oh God, I guess maybe isn't that on Switch now? Maybe I should play it.
Potentially. If it is, it'd be the remake of it that they did later, which was because the original game was on GBA.
Oh yes.
And then they later remade it for the PS2, so it like plays a lot more like the first two games, and that's a lot better to play.
Interesting. And then the last one on this list is Tori 3D, which is a little delightful like N64 error, but it's made currently platformer, and it's just delightful. It's very short. It was one of those things where I was on break at the end of the year, and I was like, what's a very short game I can beat right now? And it was worth it. Tori 2 came out, and I'm playing that right now, and hopefully that'll be on my list of games I beat in 2022. But yeah, that's it for the games for me. So it's time for the movies and TV to break it down. Now, I don't want to go on forever with this. I don't want to like go down the whole list, because this is a long fucking list.
Yeah, and we have the entire list up as articles anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out that list again, check out the list online. But guys, let's do just kind of, I mean, you pick the best ones off of your list, and I'm just going to go through, and anything that's 9 and above for me, you know, because nothing got a 10. But like 9 for me is like almost, it was like so satisfying, you know, like that's what I mean by that, is that like in our scale, when I'm doing my scale, it's like 7 is an okay movie, very good, accomplishes what it was trying to do. 8 is like, we've elevated, like this is an elevation from just a simple film that accomplished it. And then 9 is like, you satisfied me, this is fucking awesome, this is a lot of fun. 10 would be like, I can't fucking handle myself with this movie, you know, like I not many movies I've gotten to that where I feel like they're 10s, but there's a few. Maybe Punch Drunk Love for me, but that's like and Back to the Future, where it's just like, I literally can't stop watching these movies if you put them on. I will not stop. You know, like, so nothing this year hit that 10 mark, but there's a couple 9s here. which to me means like, holy shit, like you gotta see this fucking movie. That's why we're bringing it up in the podcast or TV. So, Deshaun, you want to go through first, or do you want me to go through first?
Sure. Do you want to count this as specifically, because obviously I listed everything I watched, whether or not it was actually from the year 2021, or do you want to keep this specifically 2021 related?
No, just everything, because
Just everything? Okay.
everything that was great that you watched this year. Because yeah, we could do like a 2021 rewrap, but like it's kind of hard to, you know, like especially with this list, I didn't write down the years. It's a little tougher at the end of the year to be like, what was in 2021? What came out this?
As far as like in no particular order, like a first highlight, I guess.
Yeah.
Is I watched There Will Be Blood for the first time this past year.
Oh.
I had never seen it.
That's a great one. They say go on.
And it's just like, oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is amazing. And I can see why people argued for it, like whether or not it was better than No Country for Old Men, because that was the big thing that came out the same year. They were the two head-to-head like Best Picture nominees.
And No Country won in the Oscars, so it's like,
and so there's like the debate as to like whether or not There Will Be Blood should have won instead.
Daniel Day-Lewis is a fucking force. That's the thing. He's a fucking force in that movie, you know, like, and so is what's the boy's name?
Paul Dano.
Yeah. I mean, the man's the Riddler now, which, to be fair, guys, we're not a Batman podcast, but I want to get on here right now. And if you're talking shit about the Riddler's new costume, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. It's a great costume. It's a lot of fun. Sure. It's gritty realism. And maybe that's ruining the fun. Guys, there's literally fucking 75 years of Riddler dressed like a fucking clown the entire time. You can go and see this new one, which will be Riddler being cool as fucking hell. Calm down. That's all I'm saying. Just give this a chance.
The whole like Zodiac killer thing, it's just like, it makes sense for Riddler specifically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm down for it. This is its own take. It can be its own take.
It's one of those things that where I saw a bunch of people on Twitter like hitting on it when they put out the full frame picture yesterday. And I was kind of like, what is happening here? You guys are complaining that he doesn't look like Jim Carrey Riddler, but then everyone complains that Jim Carrey Riddler looks the way he does. You know, like you're like just.
Yeah, it's just like the fickleness of audiences in general, and how like the culture shifts. Just like, that's too silly. Make it more realistic. And then we get to the Nolan films, and everyone loves those. And then now we're starting to like dial back. Well, this is too serious. Make it fun.
Yeah, and that's my thing here is that and we say it all the time on the podcast. Let people tell stories. Who gives a shit if it's not your iteration of it right then and there? Let it play. Let us see the story first before you fucking criticize the Riddler's outfit.
Yeah, especially in the case of something like Batman, which has changed so many hands over the years, even in the comics. It's easier to criticize, say, like a singular work. Like, you watch an adaptation of Watchmen, that's a different case because that's just Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons.
And somebody was like, somebody brought up, and I hate to interrupt you, but I thought you would think it was funny. They were like, the Arkhamverse one is dark. Why couldn't they do the Arkhamverse one? I'm like, he looks ridiculous in the Arkhamverse games. Like,
he's pretty scaled back. He's just kind of... He's just kind of greasy and dirty. He's like in a bad suit, which, you know, I get that mentality. But again, this isn't the Arkhamverse. Even the Arkhamverse has its own aesthetic. A bunch of different Batman interpretations have their own aesthetic. Yeah, and this is clearly like very dirty, gritty. Like even for his like, they're basically just crime thrillers with Batman in them, as the Dark Knight trilogy was. This is still just like, oh, he's even low tech.
Yeah, right. He's just punching him in the face now. He's no batarangs. Like, you know, it's just taking and punching. But beside the point, sorry to get fucking, I know Paul Dano came up and I was like, because I don't know why that bothered me. I was like, let it come out first before you criticize this. Like, this isn't a Sonic the Hedgehog situation where you're going to bully a completed movie to redo a fucking hero, especially one that I would be so confident in if I was Matt Reeves. I'd be like, I fucking made you guys a new action figure. because he looks so fucking different, and he looks dope as hell. And it's like, I got a cool idea for him, like, you're like, let it happen. But beside the point, go on, sir.
Yeah. So There Will Be Blood was one of like the first like big ones that I had seen because I had never seen before. Love that. As far as like not going into stuff that I've rewatched a bunch, as far as other favorites, I did because when we had talked about No Way Home before we started recording, I think we actually might have even brought it up on the show. We're like, is No Way Home the best superhero movie this past year? And I was also pretty like, yeah, probably. But then I also kind of forgot that The Suicide Squad came out.
Yeah, right.
And I was just like, I don't know. I still really love The Suicide Squad. And as much as, especially after watching No Way Home twice, it definitely isn't. It's not just the nostalgia, but it is its primary foundation.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, we won't go into a whole No Way Home thing, but like,
yeah,
my wife's review was that was a fever dream. And I kind of agree. It does feel like a fucking fever dream at points, but it's a style. Like, I get what they're going for, but it's like, it moves so like quick, like for what it's trying to accomplish. So much so that he doesn't even it's like, we literally had a movie before I realized that where Jake Gyllenhaal tricked him into thinking he was from another universe, and he doesn't fucking question at all that any of these people might be from his universe and trying to trick him. And I'm like, we literally just had a movie about that, and he doesn't fucking once question that maybe these, it especially comes up when he never even confirms that they're two Spider-Men, like he's just like, I'm just gonna send you home before you say anything, like that whole rooftop scene. They don't even say like, I'm Spider-Man or I'm Peter Parker. They just say somebody's here to meet you. And then they like jump down like him onto the rooftop. And he immediately is like, they're Spider-Man, which, I mean, it's cool that all Spider-Men can sense Spider-Man, but you're like, we are not even questioning a little bit that one of these guys might not be it, but whatever. Beside the point, because there's a lot of plot holes. I feel like what did Doctor Strange do after he cast the spell at the end? Did he just stand there and go, "What was I doing?" Or does he know that, like, how does this thing work?
We'll be here all day if you talk about like plot holes and stuff like that. How did Electro know Peter was Spider-Man? He never found that out in TASM 2.
Right? You're like, wait.
Yeah, just stuff like that would just
and
make your
things
head
like
hurt.
You're like, Sandman's not dead. They're like, he died later.
Well, to be fair, neither did Lizard.
Yeah, you're like, wait.
They at least have that moment where it's just like, do I die? And they just never give him an answer.
Yeah, right.
And to be fair, Peter does say some of these guys might die if we send them back. At least he doesn't assume that all of them will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there, you do have sort of that out. But and aside from like other big favorites, because I feel like we're just gonna stay on.
I'm gonna stay on it, but one little thing is that they definitely. I mean, I know it's supposed to be a science high school, but they use that science high school to come up with all the things the Stark crafting table could do, like, and you're like, in a high school lab, you're like, they had all the stuff you needed. Like, they established that they do have the stuff they needed, but you're like,
yeah, I suppose it would make sense for like TASM, like curing the lizard, because Peter's done that before, and he probably didn't have like much equipment. And he has the Oscorp
like equipment,
Yeah,
but like
a mini collider that's like the reverse of what Sandman fell into.
Yeah,
in Spider-Man
I was like,
3.
What? That was the one where I was like, wait.
But we already brought up in our review. We already brought up in our episode that like Peter is suddenly like super genius in this one.
Yes, I was especially laughing with my wife about the what's cooler than magic? Math. Which I said is specifically a scene where I can see like a high school math teacher wheeling in the fucking monitor and being like, okay, we're going to watch a scene from Spider-Man No Way Home just to prove to you guys that math is cool. Like,
please don't beat me up.
Please don't beat me up. But
so moving
on. But yes, No Way Home is definitely one of our favorite movies of the year, I would say. Yeah, there's a reason why we're talking about it.
The Suicide Squad's definitely up there.
Yes, which we have
aside
an
from
episode on.
yes,
So,
we do.
a bunch of these we have episodes on. So if you want
We don't need to
more,
elaborate too hard. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of
Aside from
these.
that,
Yeah.
The Green Knight was also a big favorite for me
Oh,
this
yeah.
year.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a little controversial one because I know a bunch of people were like, "I don't know about that one." Like,
I'm curious as to what you will think about that if you inevitably watch it.
Oh, I will because it's cheap already. Really, really cheap. So
Yeah.
for some reason I saw it was $2 and I was like, for rent.
And
And
then
I was like, what do you do?
aside
What's up?
from that, I'd say like other favorites. I still love the Candyman reboot.
Yeah.
That's super up there for me.
Yep.
That's another one where you can watch our episode to just watch me gush about that one.
I really do hope, thinking about that one, that they try to get the nomination for best makeup for that movie, because I know it's a horror movie and they might not want it at the Oscars, but if we're talking about some of the best like practical effects of the year,
yeah, just
Candyman,
the makeup with like the hives on his skin and stuff like that. Come on,
yeah, come on, and yeah, like
do the right thing.
Right, and the neck slashes, they all look great. A good neck slash is worth an Oscar. Fucking
then there was also Dune, of course, as like a big one for me.
Yeah.
I literally have the Baron Harkonnen like right over there behind me.
Nice.
That my brother got me for Christmas. Right after that is Last Night in Soho, which is like Edgar Wright's latest. I've seen it a few times. Super good.
Guys, we will do the episode on it. I will watch it. I'm sorry. It will happen. I promise.
You better be.
I will.
Continue to apologize.
Continue to apologize.
And then, yeah, beyond that, like those are kind of the big ones. I did like right before the year was out.
Big question then. What's the worst fucking thing you watched this year? What's the one that's on this list that you're like, this is the worst fucking thing I saw all year. This is awful.
There's nothing that makes me mad, but I was also went through like a huge Shudder binge and like a big like last.
And you were like, a couple of those are just gonna suck.
And most of these are like kind of trashy, stupid ass movies, but like none of them make me angry. They're just kind of schlock.
Yeah.
Like was fucking was this year? Oh man, where is it? I think it was this year. It was that one fucking movie I had told you about with Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Oh.
Where it's like post-apocalyptic.
I don't.
It was so fucking dumb. It was another Last Drive-In movie.
Nice. Last Drive-In kills it. It's half the reason to have Shudder. Other than they constantly put out like crazy horror movies on there. If you're missing, so we're not sponsored. I'm just saying, fucking.
There it is. Hell Comes to Frogtown. That's what it was called.
What a fucking title.
Probably maybe the worst thing I had seen this year, but even then, just like, if you have like it as part of a Last Drive-In episode, it makes it kind of fun, kind of like the way like watching an MST3K version of a movie is better than watching the actual movie.
Except for the Gamera movies. I always found it offensive that they were like, we'll just make fun of Gamera. I'm like, whoa. This is the Flying Turtle King. You let him just play out. I'm like, this is terrible, but let's watch it.
But yeah, that was probably the worst thing. Just for a little bit of context, it's like this stupid post-apocalyptic movie starring Rowdy Roddy Piper, and this was before.
Which already you're like,
yeah, this was even before he did They Live,
which is his best.
It's just like this stupid post-apocalyptic, like nuclear war happened and most of the world is infertile, so we need the few people who can actually produce babies, and we find the ultimate male in Roddy Piper. He's a legend. He's left 10 pregnant women in his wake. He's gonna help us repopulate the world. We have to go to Frogtown and save a bunch of sex slaves from the lizard people. You're like, dear God.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. That is
yeah.
something. That is.
And I was gonna say the last like kind of big favorite. Like I just right before the year it ended, I saw The Last Duel, and that was fantastic.
Nice. Wow.
So it's just like, okay, so Ridley Scott hasn't completely lost it, because like, yeah, Alien Covenant was even worse than Prometheus, but The Martian was great, and this was really good. So you're like, okay, so he's not completely out of it.
Just keep him out of sci-fi.
Although to be fair, I'm starting to feel like I need to like ease up on Ridley Scott a bit, because I just realized he's like almost 80 and he's still working. So I feel like we're not going to have them for much
you
longer.
saying we're picking it on an old man? Are you
Yeah,
saying?
almost. I mean, he already has the old man tendencies of just yelling at the clouds, so why not?
He's like, you damn millennials not seeing my movie in theaters?
Yeah. But I also, even though I
phones?
didn't see them until after the year had like ended, but they are 2021 movies. I did recently see Licorice Pizza and
nice.
Nightmare Alley.
Nice.
Like within a few days of each other, and both of those were fantastic. Going to probably
I
be
hear
like up
Licorice
there in the
Pizza
favorites as well.
is fantastic. I hear
It's Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right. Can't be
Enough
bad.
said.
Enough said. All right. I know we did a whole episode on this, so I'll start going through mine. But I there's a few of these we already did whole episodes on. Soul, 9 out of 10 for me. That's absolutely fantastic. You're like, yep, that's a good one. And Disney was like, yeah, just shove that on Disney Plus. Don't look at that. I feel so bad for is it Seeing Red, or what's the one that's coming out soon where she becomes Turning Red? She like becomes a red panda. That one, literally, I was at the movie theater and they had a poster being like March 11th in theaters only, and I'm like, not anymore, bitch. Like I was like, you going to Disney Plus. But you're like, yeah, I not that it's probably not working for them completely, you know, like you're like, hey, another 9 for me this year, and I know this came out years ago, but was A Silent Voice. I thought that was fucking fantastic. Another 9 was, of course, Bo Burnham's Inside. I can't fucking not praise Bo Burnham's Inside. It's genius. It speaks to pretty much everybody who's lived through
I don't
this
think
pandemic.
I had that listed here only because it's like technically a
stand-up
comedy special, so I just probably forgot to like list it somewhere.
I was like, this is a movie. When I finished it, I was like, this is different. Like there's been his stand-up specials, and then there's this, you know, like you're like, another 9 for me. I got a lot of 8s here, but like, you know, like you're like, 8 just me, you know, like 8's a good score from me, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like that it's probably you should go see it, but another, yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to go through the 8s because the only other 9 I have is Spider-Man No Way Home and then Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. And on this list here, and if you guys see it on the site, it goes from being like tons of different products all year long, and then I hit Mobile Suit Gundam, and I'm like, Mobile Suit Gundam for the fucking rest of the fucking list is just full of all the series I've been watching of it. I've really dived in. If you haven't noticed, I got a fuck ton of Gunpla now. I'm bought, sealed, delivered. You already knew it because I'm a fucking Godzilla guy, huge on Godzilla. And then you're like, hey, mechs are cool, right? And you're like, you bet your ass mechs are cool. I love Mecha Godzilla. And they're like, what if it was an anti-war message and giant mechs fighting each other? And I'm like, yes. And I fucking fell in love with the series. I've watched the original series. There's a lot here. I've watched the original series, the Zeta Gundam, which is one of my only 8.5s of this year, where it was like, I love this so much, but it's not there almost, but I still love this so much. And then Charge Counterattack, and then Unicorn really sums up the whole like UC universe, which is like the original series and a bunch of the series that are all set in the same timeline. And it's just I loved it. I thought it was so great. It's my favorite series so far of all these Mobile Suit Gundam series I've watched. It just beats them out by a lot. And I just finished building my Unicorn Gundam literally this weekend. And if you guys, not to plug, but I have a Gundam Instagram where I'm just posting Gunpla stuff, which is, you guessed it, instead of Yep Frank, it's Yep Gundam. So check out Yep Gundam if you. I'm trying not to bother people with the Yep Frank brand, like of all the photographs, like landscape. I didn't want to bother them with Gundam because I was just gonna post a shit ton of Gundam. So I was like, I'm gonna start another account. So that's why it's on there. But I did watch other series in the Gundam. I watched Thunderbolt. I watched Wing, I watched Gundam Breaker, Battle Log, and I watched.
So we're
8th
just
MS
into just
Team.
TV at this. Well, yeah, because yours is
Yeah,
combined.
it's combined list. It's a combined list. But some of the others, because I know a lot of the 9s there, it was really quick. Some of the other like really great 8s of this year, it's kind of the creeping towards 8.5s. I really dug the Snyder Cut. I'll say it. I really dug that. I watched Black Lagoon for the first time, and that fucking blew me away. I thought that was fucking awesome.
I imagine you would have had to have dug the Snyder Cut. You had like even watched like the Justice is Gray version of it.
It's right
like,
underneath
not too
it.
long afterwards. I hadn't even done that.
I did the Snyder. It's right underneath it. It says Justice League, the Snyder Cut, then Justice League, the Snyder Cut, Justice is Gray edition, and they're both the same score because I wasn't gonna be like Gray 0.5, you know, like it's, but I kind of felt like
color.
that. They took out the colors, so 0.5. No, it's like, hey. Watchmen Ultimate Cut, of course, is an 8 for me. And I only put that on this list because it had been either I hadn't seen the Ultimate Cut ever before and sat down, or it's been years.
I don't think you've watched it since I showed it to you when I used to have it on DVD, because I remember bringing it over.
Yeah. And then I forgot in this list of 9s, which we did a whole episode on, so go watch that, was Watchmen 2019. It's fantastic, guys.
It's fantastic. It's better than it has any right to be.
It's my review to everybody. I'm like, it literally shouldn't be good. It's a sequel to Watchmen. It just shouldn't be fucking good.
It shouldn't be good, and somehow it's great.
Yeah, you're like, Jesus. I did all the DCEU movies.
DCAMU?
AMU, sorry. Fucking the abbreviations that they kind of stopped recently. Was this very connected, like a DC animated universe. And I watched all those this year. And they're varying, middling results in a lot of them. A lot of 7s, a couple 5s, and a couple 6s. But really, the crown of that entire run was Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which of course was the finale. And it's just awesome. It's a lot of fun. Totally worth the fucking watch there. And then, of course, I forgot in another 9 was Invincible, which we did a whole episode on. So go watch that one to be like, why I'm like, that's a fucking 9. And there's a reason why they gave 2 more seasons to this just on the get-go, you know, like, because if I was blown away by that. It's just kind of amazing. I watched the best documentary winner from last year, which was My Octopus Teacher. That was pretty fucking awesome. It's a little weird because it's definitely like a dude kind of spending time away from his family to spend time with an octopus, but you know, it's a good documentary. Like, but it is a little like, did we learn the right lessons here? Then
as far as documentaries on my end, I did watch In Search of Darkness Part 2, which is like a 4-hour documentary about like 80s horror movies, and there are 2 of them and soon to be 3. I'm gonna watch the shit out of the 3rd one. I also watched Val, which was really good and sad as hell. That's the Val Kilmer one.
That looked too sad.
After he's like,
my mom watched that and she said she had to shut it off because it was so sad. She was like, no.
Yeah, it's a sad one.
One, I mentioned this in the article, I was trying to remember what my like most watched movie was. The one I kept like rewatching again and again, and that didn't, I said earlier, that's the one that I would give a 9 or a 10 to, but like, of course, I don't think this movie's flawless, but it did keep watching it, was In the Heights. It's an 8 for me, and I think it's the best musical of the year. I know West Side Story, I saw that too. Which is that on the list on the bottom here? It should be. Yeah, it is. Which West Side Story, when saw it in theaters, it's great. I think it's maybe I know this is sacrilege. It may be better than the original. I enjoyed it a lot more. I've heard had a good time.
Which might actually give me more incentive to watch it because I'm not huge on the original.
It's definitely Spielberg having a ton of fun, you know, like he's having a ton of fun with the visuals, with the cast, with the sets. It's him flexing and really giving us a great movie here. But I do think that I don't know how much I wouldn't go back immediately to rewatch it, but it is good. But I did go immediately back to rewatch like the next day in the Heights. Like we were like, me and my wife watched it. We were like, that was great. It's on again. And like we were like, whoops. In the Heights is on again. Whoops. And we did that like 2 more times. I watched it, I think 4 or 5 times. And then listen to the soundtrack, who knows how many times. So like, so it's like, it's definitely for me.
Seems like it's all connected as to me trying to get you to watch other stuff. You're like, but I watched this stuff 3 other times instead.
Yeah, right. Whoops. But the other musical that I did see this year that I think was right up there, same score as these other 8s, and you're going to laugh, is SpongeBob SquarePants, the musical. I got Paramount Plus for free with T-Mobile, not a plug. That's fucking what happens. And I went to Paramount Plus and they were like, you like SpongeBob? Here's SpongeBob the musical. And I was like, SpongeBob! but I sorry, that's my best Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob! But I was watching it and literally the first song I'm going, is this good? And like looking around being like, is this earnest? Is this, and that's really my review of it, is that they like really earnestly tried to make a SpongeBob the SquarePants musical. Like something that literally could have just been nothing turned into like a really good musical. Like with a song that with a great middle song called Not a Simple Sponge, which of course you're like, but it's fantastic. It's an introspective song about not being a simple sponge, and I fucking love it. Like it's those 3 are definitely the best musicals I saw this year, and I'm surprised SpongeBob made it on that list, but it really tries its damnedest. And
I don't make the rules.
Yeah, right. I don't make the rules. Now, the worst one I saw this year, the lowest score, I gave Care Bears movies. Oh, yes. And Not a Simple Sponge is written by Brendan Urie of Panic at the Disco and many other fame, which is so funny. Most of the tracks are written by really famous people, too. That's the other reason I think it really elevates. You're like, oh, SpongeBob. But beside the point, the really bad stuff, I did watch Care Bears movie. I gave that a 4. That was really, that's literally just cocaine for children's eyes. I don't know what the fuck they were.
Was there a reason you were watching the Care Bears movie?
Mary said she remembered it all, and it was on HBO Max and like on the new category. And I was like, I've never seen this, and I've never wanted to see this. And then I watched it, and I was like, this is why our parents are fucked up, because they grew like, you know, like they thought this was normal media. You know, you're like, this is why they're all fucked. But really my lowest scoring movie of this year, and I brought this up in a Filthy Casual before, was The Shattering, which I gave a 2 out of 10, which was a very, and I think this will be a genre someday. I think it'll be a film class. I mean, basically you watch this podcast because it's basically a film class, so maybe we'll fucking do that someday. But like the quarantine films, you know, like the movies made in this COVID pandemic, literally inside people's houses, you know, like where they brought in a few friends that they were able to make inside their bubble and just made a movie. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of these one location movies that happened during the pandemic, and I think it's kind of interesting, but The Shattering was definitely not a good one. It was just one of those ones where they were trying to be like, is the main character crazy like American Psycho, but it didn't have any nuance, or it's just terrible. It's just awful. But it was trying to be like mother going crazy by herself at home as she's maybe have lost a child, but she still thinks she's got the child. It was rough. The dialogue is bad. The lighting's bad. The cinematography. It's like I don't like shitting on cinematography. I like being like, wow, that was great cinematography. But The Shattering had stuff where I was like, did anybody approve this before they fucking took this shot? Did any AD or anybody go, that's good? You know, like or any DP, you know, like anybody just fucking went, it's good.
Was there no one to just say no around?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, no, okay, that's fine. But that's my only like 2 score of the entire year. Like, you know, I try to shrink. Well, nope. There is the number 1 worst movie I saw this year, and it got a 1 from me because it's horrifying. Is Cats. Cats was fucking awful. It's horrifying. You don't need to hear it from me. You already know it's awful. It's horrifying. It's literally like attacking my eyeballs when you think about it. Look, and when you see it.
Cats was already bad.
Yeah.
Just in general. But then you add a bunch of uncanny nonsense into it, and it just compounds.
And it's all these great people, and I think that makes it even worse. It like doesn't help it at all, because you're like, Idris Elba, why did you decide to do this? You know, or you're like, or any of the other very famous people in this. You're like, what? Why? Why did you say, yes, director? That's a great idea. Let's do that. Like, it just seems like somebody should have stepped in and stopped all of this, and no one did.
I just think it's one of those things where it's like, it's based off a hit musical, even if it's not very good, and, you know, throwing a lot of money around. So you're just like, well, it's also the same director as Les Miserables, and Les Miserables did super well. So you're like, just like, we're not gonna like be in makeup. You're just gonna CGI over this. Well, CGI's come a long way. I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll fix it in post.
Even, and I know I'm off topic again. And it's the overconfidence in CGI lately. Why the fuck do we have CGI huts in Boba Fett? Book of Boba Fett. If you've seen episode 2,
the twins.
Why? We could have built the suit. We could have done. You guys got Disney Plus money. You got fuckloads of money. We could have had a good looking twin hut thing. And instead, I have very shiny huts on my screen. Very, very shiny.
In all fairness, they didn't look that bad, but it's just
they look better in close up.
I
just want do they not look good far away?
I just want a big practical monster. Come on.
It's one of those things where the Wookiee looks so damn fucking good that you're like, where was the fucking, you guys did this right, why, you know, like, it's just, it's one of those things that I'm sure it would have cost a shit ton of money, but we're talking Disney Plus here. You guys are making Star Wars content, like, fucking put the fucking boot down, fucking make this shit, you know, like, I don't know. It's one of those things where we already know people hate CGI huts, so why did we do it? You know, like, I would be like, no, fans hate CGI huts. Let's do a real hut.
I only hate CGI huts in the sense that, like, all I can think of is the special editions of the special edition of A New Hope.
Yeah, but, and the prequels. The prequels have digital huts, and they look awful.
Yeah, they actually don't look that bad.
No,
like Jabba's in like one scene in Phantom Menace, and he actually doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, he looks better in Clone Wars. That's saying something, because he looks funny. but it's one of those things that, like, the overconfidence sometimes kills me, because I think they do a great job in Boba Fett and Mandalorian of marrying the two. So that's the reason why I'm kind of upset, is that, like, you know, like, they're doing a great job with those dog creatures that the Tuskens have. Those are fucking awesome. And they're a good mix of CGI and real. And you're kind of like, that's really good. What's that? You know, like, you're like, oh, what is this? You know, like, you're like, what is this hutness? But beside the point, I mean, there's a lot of movies that are overconfident in their CGI. Rampage is one that comes to fucking mind right off the bat, where you're like, guys really thought you could do this monster movie with 3 gigantic CGI monsters. You really, really, really did that. And they're like, it's a video game now. And you're like, like, just drives me nuts. But I think those are the terrible movies I saw this year. But we already listed the good ones, and but you have a different list for your TV. Do you have any highlights on the TV?
Yeah, it's a lot less than the movie, so I'll go through it kind of like I did the video games real quick.
Okay.
WandaVision, that was like early
Mm-hmm.
in the year. I watched a documentary about the Comedy Store, which is like the stand-up.
Yes, in New York.
Yeah, in L.A.
Oh, the Comedy Store in LA. Sorry, my
Yeah,
bad.
and just
I
like the
was thinking
history
the
of like the
Comedy
people.
Basement. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
And just like all the people who've like come through it and stuff like that, like
Nice.
Sam Kinison, and like how it had kind of gone off the rails for a while after like Mitzi Shore died,
Mm.
etc., and how big comedians like Joe Rogan had helped like sort of like prop it up again, stuff like that. Fascinating. You could see like how influential just that place was for a lot of comedians that you wouldn't even think of.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was like 5 episodes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like rented it and like watched it real quick. Watchmen, which we already talked about.
Yep.
Falcon Winter Soldier, already talked about it. Invincible, already talked about it. I don't need to talk about it some more.
Don't even talk about it.
Finished my revisit of Avatar: The Last Airbender because I was watching it with my mom.
Oh, I need to finish that.
I watched all of Cursed Films, which I know you watched. What, the Exorcist episode of?
Yeah, I did. And another one. I think I wanted to. I think we started watching the Poltergeist one, I watched a lot of it. I did like it.
I watched all of it. Just kind of went through it all. Castlevania season 4, fantastic, nice. Love it. It's like the only video game adaptation that makes me happy. Eli, he's like, let's see, Eli Roth's History of Horror, which is another Shudder/AMC show that I watched, season 2 of that. I watched a documentary, like a docu-series on the Wu-Tang Clan. It's called Of Mics and Men.
Oh, nice.
Last Drive-Ins, just pretty much all of season 3. I watched this like background show while I was cleaning my room called Flash Fried and Crispy.
What? Which
was about this. It's just like a food review show for the most part.
Huh.
It's hosted by this guy who used to be like a big YouTuber who would like go to like fast food places and like review stuff in his car. Oh. And they basically gave him a Netflix show to just do it with a bigger budget, where he actually goes to like talk with the chefs and stuff like that and meet them. So it's just like, oh, talk about the fucking blow up. Loki, talked about it. Movies that made a season 2 because I hadn't gotten around to watching season 2.
That was great.
I still need to watch the horror ones that they came out with.
Yes, those are fun.
That they did around October. Yeah. Ted Lasso season 1 and 2.
Oh, nice.
Fleabag season 1 and 2, which is fantastic.
Oh, I started that. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I thought they were great. So I'll have to continue watching that.
It's only 2 seasons. That's it.
Yeah.
Fucking British TV.
It's British TV. So they're like, hey, it's great. Kill it.
So basically 2 seasons of Ted Lasso, basically all 5 seasons of Insecure, which ended recently. So that's a good show. Visions, nice. We talked about. What If we talked about. I've been going through a revisit of Seinfeld, so that's like 7 seasons deep. Just like it's something to watch like before I go to bed since I get home so late. And Hawkeye, which was one of the last things I had finished.
Yeah, I need to do Hawkeye. I was waiting for it to finish and then I could crush it. Now it's
done,
so.
Anime's in its own section.
Oh yes.
Real quick. Toradora, Wotakoi, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the Rohan OVAs, Mashoka Tensei Jobless Reincarnation, Promised Neverland Season 2, which was terrible, Dr. Stone Season 2, which was good, Jujutsu Kaisen, which is good, Bottom Tier Character Tomozaki, which was good, Bunny Girl Senpai, which was great, Akudama Drive, not bad, Horimiya, fantastic, maybe favorite of the year, and Kutsuo, super fantastic. Also, like, even though it's not from this past year, one of my favorites. I watched it after we had read all the Count of Monte Cristo for book club.
Oh, nice.
And this is an amazing adaptation, but also anime as fuck at the same time, so you get to have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Did a K-On! Revisit, the final season of Fruits Basket, Higahiro, Miss Nagatoro, No Mad Megalobox 2, also fantastic. Way better than the first season, even though the first season was already pretty good.
Really? Megalobox Season 2 is better?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic to hear. I saw they were doing season 2, and I was like,
yeah, because it didn't. The story was pretty fucking complete by the end, so you're like, all right. But yeah, the second season actually ended up being better. Nice. Beastars Season 2, good. My Love Story, good. And basically the second half, they call it. In anime, they have this thing where it's not necessarily a season. They call it Core, COUR. where they've commissioned for it. It's basically season 1, part 1 and 2. Basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a different term that they use for it.
Huh. That's
so
interesting.
That's it for TV.
Okay, nice.
The rest are like all books, which there are 100 of those, so I'm not gonna list those, but I'll talk about like favorites once you talk about your stuff.
I don't have the books list. I didn't write down any books, but
I just copied and pasted from like my Goodreads challenge, so it just sort of made it easier for me.
I did read some books. I just can't remember what the fuck they were.
As far as like favorite stuff, like this was the year that I read through all of Invincible.
Nice.
So that was fantastic, and that definitely helped like kick the challenge in the ass. Where I was like 11 books ahead of schedule for a while. Did my revisit of Preacher this year for book club. I listened to The Princess Diarist, which is one of the biographies that Carrie Fisher wrote.
Oh, nice.
Specifically about like
which
her
I
time
hear is
on
hilarious.
A New Hope. Oh yeah, it's so fucking funny.
Sounds great.
Yeah, read through Ex Machina, which is another Brian K. Vaughan comic that I'd never read before. That was great. My only problem is I think it could have gone on longer.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I think we could have mined it for a little more. Finish my revisit of the Thrawn trilogy, which was a good time.
Nice.
Read all of Immortal Hulk. Fantastic.
Nice.
Maybe my favorite Hulk run ever.
Yeah, I hear it's like Jason Aaron, where you're like, yes, best Thor story, meet best Hulk story, shake hands, you know, like.
And then aside from that, some more Mistborn stuff, still going through the Dresden Files, continues to be good. This year might probably be the year that I actually finally catch up, and it's going to suck because I don't have to wait. I read The Martian because I had seen the movie and I really liked the movie. Nice. And reading the book, the movie is pretty fucking faithful.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's
like
cool.
Almost 1-to-1 at times.
Wow. Go Ridley.
Yeah. So, but the best things I read this year was probably collectively the Greenbones saga, which is Jade City, Jade War, and Jade Legacy.
Jade City's right here. Your best. So you're saying that's the best you read this year? Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't meant to read the entire trilogy this year, but it turns out the first book I finished was Jade City, and the last book I finished was Jade Legacy, which is the final book. So it just kind of worked out that way. But like Jade War and Jade Legacy, especially the two sequels, are like the best thing I read this year.
I was kind of forgetting what my favorite series of the year was, and it's definitely this motherfucker right here. The anime's coming. Chainsaw Man.
I imagine for you it'd be Chainsaw Man and a shitload of Junji Ito.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing as I read this year. I will be straight with you guys. I have not been doing good at my reading. I want to get better.
I did finally start Uzumaki.
Ooh, he's
I'm
just
like
incredible.
I'm like 60 pages into it, so I'm not like too far, but oh my god, it's so fucking good.
Oh my god, he's crazy, dude.
It's just so goddamn unsettling. I love it.
You can't see below here because my chair's blocking it, but I basically spent this past year buying every Junji Ito book like that I could possibly get my hands on. I think I'm only missing Frankenstein right now, and that's just because I'm like, I know Frankenstein, but I'm sure he's gonna make it frightening. Like
that one's been on my to read on Goodreads for a couple years now, only because like the original Frankenstein novel is one of my favorite books.
Right,
like,
it's fantastic.
Okay, add that with like his sensibility and art, I think I'm fucking down for.
Right. If you don't know Junji Ito, I basically describe him as Japan's Stephen King. He's like, it's what every horror artist is basing their work on in that country, you know, like in here, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's like Stephen King, you know, like what they'll do that all the time to new horror movies, or they'll have Stephen King do a review because he's the king, you know, like Junji Ito's the same way in Japan, where they're like it's sort of like him, or they're like,
or even if you're not privy to the genre, it's what you associate with it.
Yeah, I love using the euphemism that they used for Star Trek and many other things, that it's kind of the Mount Fuji of that art space, you know, that like it's so big in the view of everything you do that like if you don't acknowledge the Mount Fuji, you're kind of going in a completely different direction, you know, like,
Mhm.
but like most things have to acknowledge this mountain of art, you know, like that is like Stephen King's work or Junji Ito's work or anything else that just kind of
Yeah.
like encaptures the genre for its country, you know, like but and I think that same thing can happen for Star Trek, where they're like deep sci-fi Star Trek, and you're like, yeah, and if you don't know that you're referencing Star Trek, you're blind, you know. It's the same thing. What I mean by the Mount Fuji thing is like, if you're not referencing the Mount Fuji in your background, you're blind, you know. Like you gotta know that you're referencing it or not. But I've literally bought everything, guys. I'm obsessed. He's fucking great. It's fantastic.
This is what happens when I try to get. If you guys wondered why like the Watchmen episode took so long, even though we kept talking about it for a while, it's stuff like this where I try to get Frank to read something, he just gets distracted and gets on a kick for something completely unrelated.
Else. I get addicted, and then that's what I'm on. And I'm still on the fucking Gundam train. I'm probably gonna be on the Gundam train for a very long time. But because I fucking love this. I think it's one of those things where it's so up my alley that I'm like, how did I not do this earlier? You know, like, how is this not something I was already into? You know, like it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the first time I watched Star Trek, where I was like, damn, I was missing like a fucking thing here, you know? Like I was missing fucking whole bit of culture. And I feel that way about Gundam, is that like it's like it's over 50 years of animation now since the first Mobile Suit Gundam came out, and it's kind of like, would you like to start watching 50 years of animation? And you're like, yeah. You're like, sure. Like it's kind of like getting into Batman. They're like, hey, you want to read 85 years of comics? And then you're like, yeah.
Would you like to read something from 1939?
You're like, I got it for you. And Grant Morrison's going to reference it, so you better fucking know what it is.
So it counts. It's all canon. Everything counts.
Everything counts. Love him. But God, I think is that it? Is that all
I'd imagine we were just going to transition into like what we want to try to accomplish for this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, right off, I do want to see, I already said it, I wanted to go see more movies in theaters. I still want to beat more games this year, but again, quality over quantity, because I think there was a lot of shit games I played last year, and I want to get back to just playing great games and being like, I moved from one great game to the next great game, instead of being like, this game's sort of trash, but I beat it. Like,
I'm sure I'll have more stuff to play, at least in the next like coming months, because PS5s are starting to become a little more available in stock.
So what's happening?
Horizon 2 is coming out next month, and I'm like, I fucking need it.
Tashawn goes poor for a month just to get the PS5. I hope, my thing is that we had a year of pandemic, 2 years of pandemic, and it's really, it suffers the art, you know, like it's hard to make art in this, be games, movies, TV, whatever, you know, like, and I think that hopefully, if the surges don't get worse and worse, we can have a year where a lot of things come out, and we're not just like things get pushed back.
Worried about it. That's why I'm glad I'm starting to go to the Coolidge again, because the Coolidge actually literally requires you to show proof of vaccination or a test.
Yes, and now all of Boston will be doing that. They'll be like, all the vaccination, which I'm like, they already did in New York, and it was one of those things where when I was in New York, I was like, wow, these waiters, like, this is a lot for them to do. But then they do it so well, you know, like, it's so just like, yeah, show me, you know, let's go. You know, like, I thought it was going to be a burden on them, but like, it's like, it's so easy, you know, like, it's not that hard. Like, come on, we can do this, you know, like,
as far as I'm concerned, I just kind of want to read more comics this year.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like, I love years where I do big deep dives. Like last year was Invincible. I remember the same year I read all the Fables was also the same year I went through all of Berserk the first time.
Yeah.
So I love it when I just kind of have a kick where I'm just like, I need not read anything else until this is over. So I kind of love years like that. But I also have stuff that's like been on the back burner for a while. Like I haven't cracked open that like Grant Morrison omnibus, and I've been meaning to
Ooh,
revisit Morrison's run on Batman. I
right.
have that fucking Daredevil by Bendis omnibus like right below on the
Which is
second shelf I want to
fantastic,
dive into.
right?
Just
And
like more
with
comic
Matt
book shit.
Murdock coming back, like they already said he's gonna be like the new Stan Lee, basically, where it'll just be like Matt Murdock's here, bitches, and you're kind of like,
There's always a crime that he
yeah,
could potentially defend you.
right. It makes it like I'm sure they're saying that because he's gonna be in She-Hulk somehow, like they're gonna like build up to the episode where like
Just like lawyer game, recognized game.
yeah, something like that. Like it's absolutely gonna happen, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited for a great year of Disney Plus. Already killed it last year, and HBO Max. I think they were the new contenders for this past year. If we were talking like they really stepped it up and became like the new kings instead of just Netflix standing over everyone being like bitches. Like it's like I feel like HBO Max and even Prime came back swinging with fucking Invincible and The Boys.
Yeah.
And Boys season 3's coming out this year.
I mean, speaking of coming out, is there anything you're like largely anticipating for like this coming year?
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously we already kind of said it, Batman. If I'm already yelling about the Batman months before it comes out, I'm fucking ready for the Batman.
Ever since that like initial first fandom teaser, I've been like on it. I'm like, I dig this. I like the vibes I'm getting from this. I think this is going to be good.
I got the list up of this next year, and it's a pretty great year for geek movies in general. There's already
as if we're not already spoiled every year.
Yeah, we're not already spoiled. But it's like we got it. It's every one of these months have at least two, like nerdy movies in some way, except for Morbius moved out of January, so January's got fucked, I guess, but there's still Spider-Man, so I guess watch that. Uncharted, no, I'm not excited for that. Sorry, I was going through this list, but get out of here. I will pick the best ones, actually. So Batman, I'm sort of excited for Sonic 2, but probably not.
I'm not at all.
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, of course, it looks dope as shit. I love DC coming swinging in the same month of Multiverse of Madness with League of Super Pets, which I can already tell is going to be a massive success. Like fucking huge.
Yeah, because it's basically the Secret Lights of Pets 3.
Yes, but with a much better cast and superhero shit. Like it's gonna fly. It looks great. I'm excited for it. Of course, I'm tentatively excited for the new Jurassic World.
Not at all.
I hope.
Not after Fallen Kingdom.
Sean never forgives. Never forgives. Yeah, and you got Lightyear coming out this year, which we'll fucking see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about that one.
Right. Every time I see a trailer, I'm like, I think that was cool. I'm like, I don't. Yeah. I can't tell. Thor: Love and Thunder, which I'm sure will be very funny.
I feel like if it was separate from like the Toy Story license and it was just Pixar doing a space exploration film, I'd be way more down for it. But because it's like Buzz Lightyear, but like the Buzz Lightyear as in like what the toy is based on, like that lore, it's weird to me.
What I'm excited about mostly is for Pixar to go really, really hard with like realistic quote unquote graphics, because this will be like their most realistic looking movie they will
definitely
have,
at least since like WALL-E in terms of just like sci-fi aesthetic.
Yeah. I do not believe Black Adam will come out this year. I'm calling that right now. I don't know why.
Think it would either now.
I think it's set right now for July 29th. That's getting delayed. Guaranteed. That's getting delayed. They just started shooting that. That's fucking getting delayed. I hope it gets delayed is mostly what I'm saying. But the big guys for this year for me is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I already said it in the review. I think Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie, even with No Way Home. It's just like, sorry. And then Flash is shaping up to be fucking crazy. They just announced that Ben Affleck, it's going to be his last movie as Batfleck, and it's got Michael Keaton Batman in it. You're like,
Well,
Okay.
he said he's done a few times, so I'm inclined to be a
Yeah.
little like, yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. I read
Because
the whole
after like
review, man, and he was like, he was quite upset, dude. He's like, I
yeah,
did not
but
have a
like
good time with Justice League.
after Justice League, he had said he was done. Even after like the Snyder Cut reshoots that like he had contributed, he said he was like probably done. Then the Flash
yeah.
comes out, now he says he's done. You're just like, it's just one of
um,
those things where like I love him as Batman so much that it just makes me sad.
yeah, it's like I'm sad he had a bad time. You know, like
Mhm.
it just sounds like it's funny. It made me glad he stepped away from Batman, directing the movie The Batman,
Yeah.
and gave it to Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson and everything, because it sounded like he didn't have his heart in it, you know. And he admitted that he was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna hand this off because this isn't. I'm not in love with it.
Little
Like,
little sidebar for the Flash though. I'm starting to get sick of all the articles that are just like, is the Flash going to reboot the
I
DCU?
don't
I'm like,
care. I don't
it's just
care.
like, well, it's adapting Flashpoint, so I imagine some things are going to change from this point forward. Yeah.
Right. It's people being dumb. You're like, oh, did you not understand what this story was to
Mhm.
completely reset everything? And they're gonna be angry. They're gonna be like, oh, they rebooted again. You're like, you're like, this is our fucking third Spider-Man, and then we brought all the fucking Spider-Man together, and you were happy about it. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, let a story tell its story. We'll have a good time.
Mhm.
But then we also, which is absolutely going to be pushed back. Wakanda Forever is going to get pushed back again. Avatar 2's never coming out. That's never coming out. It's a myth,
a real
guys.
movie, Frank.
It's a
It's
myth.
real.
It's a myth.
It's real.
never coming out. James Cameron's lying to us. It's not a movie. It's a money-making scheme. He's been laundering money for years in the hopes of making an Avatar 2, which I think is what he calls his yacht he used to buy it. No, I'm
Mhm.
just kidding, because he's only using boat money to go see the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. So
No, it's going to be like this revolutionary, like, new art form. He's going to release Avatar 2 just entirely comprised of NFTs. That's what Avatar 2
No,
is.
get
It's
the
just
fuck
one
out
large
of here.
NFT. It's just a big blockchain. That's what Avatar 2 is.
No, got him. Oh god, dude. Yeah, they're gonna start minting like frames from movies and being like, "Own this frame from a movie." I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I can go see that movie. That doesn't make any sense. Like, whatever. I understand how NFTs work, guys. I'm into crypto. I get that. I just think the NFTs are bad for the environment, and they're being used greedily right now. They're not being used to help people. You're not actually helping any artists, because most of the time you're exploiting an artist. And for every artist you're actually helping, somebody's just randomly making an NFT right now that's never touched Photoshop or a pen in his goddamn life. It just knows to make something stupid and sell it for $3,000 on the blockchain.
Yeah.
You're just like, come on, guys. Like,
I'm trying to think of like upcoming stuff that I'm
There-
excited for. I
there's
don't
also
know if Del
Gar-
Toro's Pinocchio film is going to be
Ooh.
this year.
So some of the TBDs that are on this list are, of course, Secret Invasion, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and of course, the real king of this year, which if they don't announce a fucking date for this, I'm gonna cry. Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be the most bomb shit that's ever fucking come out on screen, and I'm on Disney Plus, and I'm so fucking excited for it. But they don't have a date for it yet. And it's one of those things where you're like, I could give a shit about Andor, dude. I don't give a shit. Just give me fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, stop.
I also
fucking
wouldn't be
around.
surprised if the Sandman was this year.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised either if we get that. Also, we have Moon Knight coming this year, which I hope to Christ that's not a mess. That's one of those things where I'm like, I want
Moon Knight's a tough character to crack.
He is. He really is. It's one of those things where you're like, they made Deadpool happen, so hopefully the same amount of love can go into Moon Knight, and maybe we can get something great out of it, you know? Like, but it's a fucking hard character, you know? Like, it's not, you know, it's a really hard character. But I think 2022 has a chance at being a great year for video games, if we get Breath of the Wild 2. And if you know, they really if a bunch of these things actually just come out, you know, like that's the real issue, is that you're like, is this shit gonna come out? I think Peacemaker is gonna be one of the best TV shows of the year, and it's coming out next week.
That looks funnier and funnier every time they show more of it. So I'm super down.
Are you excited? I sent you the trailer for it. Are you excited for Belle coming out in January 14th?
Yeah, it's Hosoda.
Yeah, Hosoda. I was like, I saw that and I was like, Deshaun, maybe we gotta go together. Like we gotta go. Go see this.
That is one of the things we're trying to chip away at, like the rest of his filmography, but we like kind of like fell way behind on it.
Right. You're like, you got the new. I know he's your favorite director, and I say that with such sarcasm. Emmerich is coming out with his new disaster movie. Ronald Emmerich's coming out with Moonfall, from the creator of Independence Day. It's got some good people in it, and you're like, I mean, don't they always? You're like, you poor bastards. It's one of those things that the beginning of this year is kind of really rough with the movies, and then it finally picks up in March, and I think if it can hold it after that, it's going to be great.
If it's rough or scarce, that way you use that time to catch up on the stuff you missed.
Right, exactly. I saw the trailer for, what did you think of, have you seen the trailer for Ambulance yet? The new Michael Bay with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I did, how do I say
his name?
That wasn't a trailer. That was a movie in summation. That was just a 3-minute movie.
It really was, though.
That was just a 3-minute film.
I was like, Bay, I know there's nothing more to this. You gave it all away. I know you, Bay. You're not fucking hiding shit. This is the whole plot. Which, and to be fair, that was a pretty good 3 minutes. I was like, hey, that's exciting.
Like, it looks like it could be like crazy fun, and I'm always down for like Jake Gyllenhaal. And again, we've talked consistently over and over again how about we're in the Yahya Abdul-Mateen renaissance.
Yeah,
he's great in everything. He's in fucking everything.
That's my only thing, is like, he's gonna be good in this. This might be Bay schlock, but he's gonna be great in this. You know, like you're like, The other one that, if we're not talking tent poles here, I am excited for The Northman, Robert Eggers' new movie. That's in April, and that just looks fucking.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna go see that.
That looks great. You're like, okay. We are supposed to get the Bob's Burgers movie this year. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but we are supposed to get that. The Bob's Burgers complete musical movie.
Yeah.
I
think Saga's coming back this year on the comic book side.
Oh,
so fucking finally, after like a 3-year break.
There's not much horror going on this year, but the big draw horror-wise is Ethan Hawke's new movie, The Black Phone, coming out in June. I think it looks great. It is Scott Derrickson, which is the guy who directed Derrickson, who directed Doctor Strange.
Sinister.
But also Sinister. But going back to his horror roots, basically, which I'm excited for. You're like, okay. You're like, they kicked you off of Doctor
Multiverse
Strange.
Of Madness. So.
Yeah, like, go back. You know? And I think that's it for my indies, like that I'm like, ooh. Other than, horror-wise, they are trying to remake Salem's Lot, but that's another one that I'm like, that's not coming out this year. I can like tell that's not coming out this year, you know?
That's at least one where the original miniseries, while still good, is still a little dated, and it could probably be afforded to have like a nice a good remake.
I would be so excited for Salem's Lot good remake. That like Salem's Lot is probably my favorite Stephen King novel. I love it. It's I love his reimagining / adhering to the vampire rules, and I think I hope it's good. The only other horror movie on this list that I found, which I know you're not excited for, but I'm a little bit excited for, is Halloween Ends. It's set for October 14th.
I'll see Halloween Ends.
Yeah,
I'll watch it.
I'll watch. He's like, you'll get my money.
You'll get my money just for completionist standpoint.
Oh yeah, and we're supposed to get the
Mario...
did
Halloween Kills not sell it to me.
Yeah. We're supposed to get the fucking Avatar. We're supposed to get the new Mario movie this year. That's another one where I'm like, that's not coming out. at Christmas time. That's a
just
20.
keep pushing it back, push it back until it doesn't exist. How about
and
that?
They do say Creed 3 is coming this year.
Yeah, with Michael B. Jordan directing.
Yeah, which
does follow the
intriguing.
pattern.
Yeah, right. It's intriguing.
It follows the pattern. Stallone jumped into the director's seat
on 3.
So why
You're
not?
Like, oh.
Well, 2 on really.
2 on.
With the exception of 5 because he brought back John G. Avildsen who directed the first one. So yeah, it sort of follows that pattern, but it's just one of those things where like, can we not push our luck?
Yeah, right.
Can we not push our luck? Like Creed 2 is such a nice way to just leave it alone.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where I'm like, you guys are good at this. Please
just
don't.
Like
Please don't.
We're lucky enough that like the Rocky franchise is as consistent as it is, because even 5 is bad, but it's not like offensively bad. It's just like, it's just kind of
yeah, I agree.
But there's been nothing where we're just like, oh, that's awful. Like this series is pretty consistently good.
Yeah. No, and I know some people are being like, what about 3 and 4? And you're like, you're wrong. 3 and 4 are good movies.
3 and 4 are blasts, all right? And I will argue 3 actually has the best fight in terms of just like sheer madness.
Yep. And 4 just has one of the best 80s villains of all time, you know? Like, it's just like, you're like, come on,
That is
Drogo.
something I did watch this past year was the weird director's cut for Rocky 4.
That's so wild. So you're like, wait, what? That's wild, but
I just took one for the team because Godfather Coda was also this past year, so that's 2 unnecessary director's cuts.
They were like, we can make money on director's cuts now. Zack Snyder proved it, and they're like, and you're like, wait, you can't fix Godfather 3 centuries later, for decades later, and they're like, oh, we're gonna try. And
yeah,
like, no.
That's different circumstances, guys, but sure. And the fact that like. Didn't we also get a new Apocalypse Now? Because it's called like they pulled a Blade Runner and called it the final cut.
And you're like, wait, hold on. I'm like, I have the new cut. I have this cut. You're like, damn it! I love like, this movie. Stop this.
It's annoying. It's annoying, even though a few times like final cut for me is like the best cut of Blade Runner. But it is annoying when you tell someone to watch a movie and they're just like, wait, which version?
Which version? Which one?
And it's not even as simple as just like, oh, Lord of the Rings, extended or theatrical, even though you should watch extended. No, They're still good movies either way, even if you had to watch theatrical. But that's still just 2 options as opposed to like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I feel the same way with trying to recommend people to Mobile Suit Gundam. I'm always like, there's a billion series. Like, just watch the original. You're like, and then you'll find other things after that. Which, I mean, we haven't brought up any anime that's coming out this year. We're supposed to get Mobile Suit Gundam, which is something. It's a whole new series. I'm excited for it. And then they have Mobile Suit Gundam, Kuzo's Island, which they're gonna remake a really shitty filler episode into a whole movie. So we'll see how that goes. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, sure.
Dragon Ball Superhero, hate that title. This year.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
JoJo's just came back, so it's not really counting for this year. That just came back at the
end
of last year.
I feel the same way about Boba Fett. You're like, this is a 2022 series. I only saw 1 episode in 2021. You know, like you're like, come on. You're like, we know this is a 2022 thing. You know, like you're like, come on.
I'm sure there's like other stuff like more seasons and stuff like that. I know like D-Stars is getting its final season this year. I'm sure Dr. Stone's coming back, like a bunch of shit.
And I know and Chainsaw Man, my boy's finally coming out this year. It's gonna be fucking.
And Attack on Titans.
Just started.
Just started.
Just started the final part. The
final part.
Final part this time. Which. That's one of those series that I've just been waiting to end to binge because I love the first 2 seasons and now that
there was nothing for like 4 years.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, okay, I'll come back when you're done and when I know you're done, you know.
Yeah,
like,
this is what happens when manga is monthly, which isn't often.
Yeah, right. You're like, wait a minute. But I do love Attack on Titan from what I've seen, so I'm excited to see more. But I think that's pretty much it, guys.
Yeah, that's more or less.
That's more or less. But basically, guys, we're saying take in more culture in 2022. If you're stuck inside because of the surges, take in some culture. Stop rewatching The Office or Friends or New Girl like I'm doing. Like we do that all the time.
Yeah,
and
stop that.
Which we're
Like
trying.
I'm going through Seinfeld, but I also haven't seen Seinfeld in a
Yes.
very long time.
Exactly.
I'm probably
We've been
gonna
good.
I might jump into Curb Your Enthusiasm afterwards, just because I'm kind of feeling like the Larry David like nonsense right now. And I
You're like,
never
I can feel
watched
it.
all of Curb Your Enthusiasm, so I'm like, sure.
Yeah, and I think he had a new season in the last 2 years or something like that. So
I think they announced that it's coming back.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't watch it myself, so I don't really know. But yeah, basically we're just saying take it in, the guys. There's a lot of in a world where they're trying to rush you, where they're trying to get you to see all the things at once. Take in the good stuff.
Take your time. You don't need to rewatch stuff. Like just this past year, we had a new Guillermo del Toro film, a new film from Edgar Wright, a new film from Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right, it's a great year. I do think 2021 pretty exceptional on the film side for a year that should have been like another put off year. Like the putting movies off to the next year.
It was 2 years, basically 2 years in a row, where like art kept us sane.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like there's lots of great stuff. I do. Oh, one of my New Year's resolution is to do 10 Gunplas this year. I did 5 last year in my short time, so I want to do at least 10 of these bad boys.
At least 10.
At least 10. Which
I'm gonna do 15 Batmobiles. How about that?
Do it. Get all the Batmobiles in Lego form. That would be great. But yeah, I guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode, to watching this episode. Thanks for, I know we're moving over to a new YouTube, but it shouldn't be that bad of a move. If you guys could just hit that subscribe button, you'll get the videos every week like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, guys, get excited for other things. Like I feel like we do just the podcast, and I feel like 2022 we can really expand the Warp Shelf brand and the Galaxy Geek brand.
We got some ideas. There's been stuff that's been like brewing for a while that I wanted to like toy with.
Exactly. And we're totally down to doing, because we don't do news, but I would love to do reactions, like us reacting to something coming out instead of just like, I don't know, hearing it on the podcast where we're trying to go deep, like,
Mm-hmm.
We can actually watch a Batman trailer and react to it or something like that, I want to try to do stuff like that where, it's a little bit breezier, a little bit shorter, and not as involved as these go. But that's kind of the fun of this podcast, right, guys? We get deep and down. And if you want more, there's tons of episodes. Still, if you go to galaxygeek.com, they're still all there. I'm not going to delete the episodes off the Yep Frank thing. They're not going anywhere. We're just got a new home on the Galaxy Geek.
Yeah, new year, new home. It's our
new year, new home. So guys, thank you for the support. Please hit all those buttons to make all the algorithm work. And if you want to, we've already said it a billion times, check out galaxygeek.com for all the lists of this episode. And then also check out our individual social medias. You can see Deshaun's build on what he's been watching and what his build on his Lego Batmobile Tumblr on his Instagram and his Twitter, which you can check out. Mod Kareka. And you can check out all my Gunpla and shit on Yep Frank or Yep Gundam for the Gunpla, but you can check out Yep Frank on Twitter, because I will post the best stuff on my Twitter, but again, my Twitter's already fucking scattered. I feel so bad for any like audience I could have been going for, because I'm like Overwatch, Gundam, like, Batman, it's all my interests just fucking flying out into the universe with Twitter, so it's like, yeah, I'm into a lot of things. Sorry if that wasn't apparent. Sure about that. But guys, thank you so much for supporting the show, and I hope you have a great 2022. And we'll be coming out with episodes every week to keep you sane, hopefully.
Yeah. So we'll see you for the next one.
Adios, amigos.